Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar around Platform as a Service and cloud-based business transformation. I'm Matt Davis and I look after product marketing for Cordys, and I'm very happy to have Stefan Ried from Forrester with me. We've had close to 500 people register with us on the webinar, and that kind of really shows how popular a topic Platform as a Service is kind of right now. And so Cordys have been working with Stefan for a long time, and he co-authored the last Forrester Platform as a Service wave, where Cordys was ranked as one of the the top handful of Platform as a Service providers. So we're very happy to have him. A couple of quick things just before we get started. So everyone's on mute by default, and there is a Q&A session that you'll be able to see in the GoToMeeting panel on the right. We'd love to have your questions, so just enter them into that question section in the panel, and we'll deal with them at the end, and Stefan and I will do our very best to answer the questions. So I wanted to start really with a question and a discussion really about choice, really, on the next slide. And it's fair to say that the choice of IT capability, be it communications or infrastructure or software, that you can get from the cloud has never been greater than it is right now. And that just in itself is kind of transforming how we consume and operate IT. But I wanted to start really as an introduction to this with a question. And on the next slide, are we really creating a problem for ourselves as we start to adopt more and more things in the cloud? We've always had on-premise software, and that now with that ability to go and start using software or infrastructure as a service very quickly, is it creating that problem of, we're going to have in on-premise software and cloud software for the foreseeable future, and actually those problems that we've always had with trying to put together and integrate different systems, trying to create some kind of coherent business process, or some way of trying to create a consistent user interface or customer experience or UI or application. And especially nowadays with bring your own device and mobile computing, how are we going to solve these problems both on-premise and in the cloud? And this picture or this problem that we have has been described by Forrester as the mess of many. And if you look at how we've had to deal with this just with on-premise software on the left, actually we might be making another problem for ourselves with cloud software, as you saw on the right of that picture. And that actually might be a blocker to business transformation in itself. And so that kind of leads us on to how Platform as a Service might be able to help, and how that might, Platform as a Service, as is the subject of this webinar, might help us unlock these challenges of on-premise and cloud software and actually allow us to fix that mess of many. And we're seeing this increasingly that middleware and Platform as a Service are starting to converge, and that's helping us fix that problem of on-premise and cloud-based software. And it's allowing us to really get to the point where we can deliver what a customer or a service provider is looking to offer, and to fix that problem of connecting systems together, creating a coherent process, creating the right kind of application, and then delivering that to the right device. And also we've seen that productivity gain that you get as well from the kind of middleware capability delivered through Platform as a Service is helping us unlock that change and that speed and that agility, and those things that do help us transform businesses through cloud computing, and Platform as a Service as a key enabler for that, really. On the next slide, really, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the Cordys platform and how we've started to talk about this as a middleware platform as a service, really. And Stefan will get into the idea of some of these things in his slides, but if you think of how we've created the Cordys platform as a service, it's really built on top of a multi-tenanted grid that supports the whole of the the capability that you can see on this picture. And at the bottom you'll see a service-orientated based integration capability, so an enterprise service bus, a business services and the ability to have master data management. At the business process layer, you'll see BPM, case management rules, and visibility through dashboards. And at the top, the ability to create those composite applications. So that might be, a very rich enterprise mashup that's delivered to any number of devices. And you'll see on the right, there's the collaborative workspace, and that's our way of allowing, through a web browser, people, business analysts, architects, developers, to all work together through a browser-based workspace. And on the left are unified cloud provisioning that allows you to provision infrastructure, software, and on-premise systems and users to give them access to the right systems and to measure and monitor those things. And so that's really an overview of the Cordys platform. And Stefan did some research probably a couple of years ago now on platform as a service and who were going to be the key buyers, the key users, the people who are going to adopt platform as a service. And those three main groups were kind of roughly existing middleware buyers who are buying middleware on premise, service providers, and ISVs. And so far we're seeing that play out with the adoption of the Cordys platform as a service. So we're seeing ISVs, service providers, and enterprises start to use the Cordys platform to help them, get to the cloud. And so I wanted to just run through very quickly the kind of customer examples we're seeing. So if we start with the first slide, which was enterprises, we're seeing enterprise consumers of platform as a service start to use Cordys and PaaS to be faster and more agile, but actually start to consume their middleware as a service, take that hybrid approach to cloud and on-premise that Stefan's going to talk about in a few minutes, to have a fair use subscription pricing. And it may seem fundamental, but it's worth just reinforcing that there are no hardware, power, or administration costs. That's part of what you get by using platform as a service. You're not running this yourself. You're consuming it as a service. If you then look at how service providers on the next slide are starting to use platform as a service, you'll see that they're actually offering their own platform as a service capability. They want to offer a new portfolio of cloud products and value-added services. They're looking to differentiate themselves from their competitors, but some of their wider competitive-based systems integrators, other telcos, other service providers as well. And they're looking to broker and aggregate those kind of infrastructure and cloud services to differentiate themselves. And that's the big driver in the service provider space and why they're using platform as a service. And finally, really, if you look at the ISVs as the final section, really, they're looking to build the next generation of smart applications. And that might be software as a service, it might be highly mobile, it might involve more of social media. So they're looking to win new, but also retain their existing customers in a very competitive marketplace. They're looking to deliver their core IP in a number of different deployment models. That might be on-premise, but more and more it's delivered as a service. They're looking to take what they already have and augment it and modernize it and react to those changing customer demands that we mentioned before. But also, if you're an ISV and you need to drive either a higher margin or lower cost, the ability to reduce that complexity and the development and operational cost is a key benefit of using platform as a service. And before we get to Stefan, the last thing I wanted to do is just summarize those three that we've just discussed in terms of how those kinds of organizations are using platform as a service or a middleware platform as a service, really. And each one of them is kind of taking a different mix of capability and a different blend of those solution frameworks that you can see here. From mobility to cloud orchestration to getting a better view of operational visibility. But the one thing that's kind of common between them all is that desire to differentiate themselves from their competition, optimize the way that they operate, and enable them to kind of take their customers to the cloud and allow them to benefit from that transformation that's going on in the cloud right now. And I just wanted to run through those quickly to introduce Stefan's section. And so, Stefan, we're very happy to have you. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matt. That's a great way to set the scene for my presentation and give people the context of what Cordys does. Now, hello everybody from my end. My name is Stefan Ried. I'm principal analyst with Forrester, as Matt introduced. And Forrester is an independent analyst firm, so you will get from me the independent view on how the market shapes and what kind of capabilities you find with different vendors. And then you can make up your mind, obviously, that there's a good fit. Otherwise, we wouldn't present together here with a vendor view and an independent analyst view in one presentation. So I'd like to guide you through the whole evolution of platform as a service a little bit and try to motivate why this is all changing and why there's change at all in the industry around this. So first of all, there's a huge pressure on application developers. So if I look into those industries that do develop custom applications, like in the banking and insurance industry, in many industries, in public sector, many industries where for specific purposes there are no packaged applications, and there will never be packaged applications for their specific purposes, especially for that kind of business logic that helps to differentiate you as a company related to your intellectual property. So there will be application development in corporate enterprises forever. Maybe not to that extent as it was before, but for some extent it will be there forever. And also ISVs, as Matt mentioned, ISVs are independent software vendors are really looking for new platforms. So what are the challenges they are facing? So we know from the right, the yellow side, the yellow or 3 bullets, there is the usual legacy kind of challenges to developers, right? Backlogs, legacy history of old applications that you did, and suddenly new technology kind of pushing to be a replacement, for example, new hardware infrastructures and so on. But then we have another group, and this is the 3 blue bullets here, where the business requirements themselves are significantly changing. So we have new channels, we have new business models and all. We have a lot of change and around compliance and regulation and so forth. So if you are a company and put something new out to engage with your customers in a new way or engage with your channel in a new way, you run into all those problems. And for example, specifically in the European Union, we have a lot of change in the jurisdiction through the merge of the country laws and the EU laws. So this is a speed of change that you can hardly catch up with traditional development methods. And then finally, on the lower left, you have something that we call the empowered challenge. Empowered has a lot to do with kind of self-confident employees and customers and partners. So they just bring their own technology, they bring their own devices, they bring their own approach to do things. So you have a kind of competition creating apps that need to be on this top standard of what you can get on a smart device or what you can get in the consumer space. And if you're not catching up, you're losing those empowered people, which drive the major growth and is usually the biggest talent among your employees. So first I give you a quick feedback on platform as a service, the term itself. And the term itself becomes already heavily used, maybe even a little bit overused. And what we see is that at least it's well established. So if we asked this question here a couple of years ago, 2 years ago and 1 year ago, and a platform as a service was not well defined. But now if you ask, for example, the other way around, ask for the definition, what would you call a complete environment to create, deploy, manage, and integrate applications? How would you call this? Well, already 56% say this is platform as a service. Right? 16% say this is cloud computing in general, because they always expected that cloud infrastructure does all those things. Unfortunately, they were disappointed in many cases. If you just go to an infrastructure as a service, you do not get help to deploy and manage and integrate the applications. You just get a amazingly scalable infrastructure, but you have to make sure that you do all the management of it, that you do the scalability, that you do the integration, that you do the middleware stack basically on your own. So, but these kind of 50+% realize, okay, this is something different. This is not infrastructure. This is not cloud computing in general. This is platform as a service. So now before I move on, I'd like to suggest that we make this a little bit interactive, although there are many people on the phone. So we have prepared a little poll asking you where's the change ahead for your specific company. And the first question that we have is the following. Which of the following middleware platforms are you investing in? So option 1 is custom development applications in .NET or Java or any other traditional enterprise language. The second option is business process and business role management solution. And the third is user interface frameworks, portals, composite applications. And the next one is business event management. And the final one, option number 5, is service-oriented SOA integration and messaging infrastructure. So on your screen should now be a poll where you can pick one of those. So while you do this and while you're seeing the polling frame popping up on your screen, the second question that will come up right after this is another interesting one that we will talk about in a minute. So the second one says, do you replace or complement on-premise middleware with cloud platforms? And what I really mean with complement is that you keep on-premise middleware, on-premise integration environments, on-premise app servers, and so on for those cases that you have in mind, but add cloud platforms for some tasks, for some workloads, which ends up in using both and creating these kind of composites or mashups where you have one business application, but seamlessly this business application leverage some stuff out of the cloud and some stuff out of your on-premise environment. And then the other extreme, this is the first option in this question, is actually that you shut down the on-premise middleware for a domain of apps, if you will, and go to the cloud only. This could also be, and then obviously the third answer is, oh no, I don't like this cloud platforms at all and have no plans. Good. So I hope you made the poll. Thanks for participation, and I'm coming back with the result in a second. So one thing that I actually see as a big challenge, what you see here on the next slide, on slide 19, is the challenge of what I call hybrid integration and hybrid squared integration. And this is based on many inquiries that I have with Forrester clients asking me what's the best integration strategy for my company. Many CIOs ask that, many people that have large enterprises in mind. And it becomes very obvious to me that the single capability of a piece of middleware is not that important anymore, because most, we have middleware since 25 years, so and also enterprise service bus since 10 years, and master data management and all those pieces. So they become very similar in terms of capability. But this is very important. Those two dimensions that you see here. So are they actually bridging the gap between on-premise and cloud? So are those integration products that you put in your integration strategy, in your middleware strategy, could they work both with a cloud application or even with a middleware footprint in the cloud, platform as a service, and an on-premise footprint seamlessly together? So this is one dimension, the cloud and on-premise. But also we have the multiple integration silos that you have on-premise. If you look in larger enterprises, right, we have totally different integration approaches. We have B2B, like EDI communication. We have modern API, synchronous real-time APIs that you share with your channel, with your business partners, your customers. And we have also the traditional application and data integration on-premise. So this is the kind of challenge, to put those two dimensions, the cloud on-prem and the different traditional integration silos together. That's why I think the hybrid squared integration challenge is a major challenge. So now you see on next slide the results to the question that I asked you based on the Forrester Foresight software survey that we do every December, and this is just a 2-month-old data here, and so very, very current data. And you see here that the light green and the light green says we are complementing platform as a service in the next 2 years, and the light yellow says we plan to replace, and the dark green says we use PaaS in a complement scenario already. And this is a very interesting plot, because you see in general that the complement scenarios are kind of significant bigger than the replacement scenarios, and also for the already usage, the complement scenarios, like if you look at business process and business rules, 7% of the companies that we surveyed say already that they do already today 7% of PaaS usage in a complement scenario, so a PaaS in the cloud combined with middleware on-premise, and only 2% say for a certain workload we shut down the on-premise middleware and go to the cloud. So the complement and hybrid scenario, the cloud on-prem hybrid, really becomes the norm, because it's more common than a cloud-only approach for platform as a service. And Matt, maybe you can share with us the results that the participant brought.
Yeah, so we've got the results, Stefan, and you should be able to see them on screen now for those people watching. And Stefan, for your benefit, the biggest section was business process or business rules management with 65%. Next biggest was server integration and messaging infrastructure with 54%. Next was the UI frameworks, portals and composite apps with 42%. And then custom developed applications in .NET or Java with 28%, and the last one was business event management with 12%, in terms of which are the middleware platforms that people were investing in. And then on the second question, so do you replace or complement, to validate exactly what you've just said, really, the biggest section by a long way was 65% of people saying they're going to complement, so keep their existing on-premise middleware and add a cloud platform. Next was, no, we do not use any cloud platforms or PaaS at all. And only 10% people said they were going to replace and shut down their on-premise middleware and start to use platform as a service.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So this is kind of a similar result. Obviously, the business process part of the audience is a little bit bigger than in my general survey here because of Cordys inviting here. So obviously, I believe there are more business process interested people joining this call today. So good. So if we then know that hybrid becomes the norm, that complement scenarios, complex scenarios with cloud and on-prem becomes the norm, not only in the Forrester survey but actually in the audience listening today, let's have a look at what does this mean. We talked a lot about developers. Now let's have a look quickly about CIOs. How can CIOs get back in charge? And what you see on the slide here, on the next slide, is that actually CIOs really shifted gears in how they build up cloud strategies. So in the former day, cost saving was very important. So CIOs did software as a service, platform as a service, similar numbers like the ones that you see here on the slide, because of the cost saving. And now the business agility comes up. So CIOs want to react to those challenges of changing environments, changing a speed of application development. And this is pretty much in sync with the challenges of the app developer. So that's good news, right? So both have the same goal and not conflicting goals. So that's good. So let's have a look quickly what kind of apps are so rapidly developing. And I have here a categorization into two groups, which is specifically helpful for you to identify those apps that you should and could, with some benefit, put on a platform as a service in the cloud, versus those apps where the benefit might be less. And this categorization is called the systems of engagement versus the systems of record. And the systems of record is basically a traditional application that was built for admins, for professionals that sit in front of one application all day long and do, for example, the core transactions of your company. For example, financial accounting systems. Most parts of the traditional ERP systems are systems of records. So the systems of records are moving at a very careful, I would say, slow speed of innovation. You could argue if that is too slow, but actually there's also some good side of moving slow, which means lower risk. And obviously, if you think of your financial accounting application, if you would change this twice a quarter, maybe the balance sheet is very risky to predict. So don't do this. There is no benefit in doing it. However, on the systems of engagement that touch people, so touch employees, partners, customers, and smart products and smart devices like sensors, the Internet of Things, the innovation speed is enormous. Why? Because those systems are less mission critical for the core transactions, but definitely very mission critical for companies' relationship building to customers and partners. And the perspective is also totally different. So think of, again, employees or HR admins, right? An HR admin that sits in front of SAP HR, for example, or PeopleSoft, a systems of record, is doing HR administration, make sure that an employee gets the right paycheck. But on the other side, does those traditional HR systems help employees to be successful, to negotiate and reach their goals, or to make up a personal development plan and career plan and track of the achievements in that career plan? Obviously not. But that's exactly the different perspective what in systems of engagement does, and systems of engagement for employees, for example. So you see here in this example of HR, the same thing, HR, but totally different perspectives and totally different audiences and target groups. So check out if you're building apps for systems of engagement, those apps will be very, very likely moving at enormous fast speed. You don't have time to configure middleware. You don't have time to do integration of different middleware components. You don't have time to think of quick provisioning and things like that. This all needs to be automatic. So is this something that only kind of crazy analysts tell the market, or is this real? And partly. So, and we did a interesting question, which is a kind of standard question, which was today and over the next 2 years, what percentage of your firm's budget for standard application software will be spent on cloud solutions? So first of all, this hits real numbers. So it is not only that the companies are using cloud, the companies are using cloud for significant volumes and shift significant license spendings from traditional apps into the cloud. But what we did here, much more important, we asked very early in the survey totally different questions like, is your company successful? Is your company growing? And if you differentiate companies that grow 20% or more, so companies that are with their core business successful, you end up at 26% spending in software as a service, while those companies that are less successful spend only 16%. So you could now say in two directions. Companies that are successful are spending more in the cloud, or the other way around, companies that spend more in the cloud are more successful. So interesting correlation, and it hopefully motivates you to become a top performer, both on your company performance and also on the usage of cloud platforms. So let's have a look at cloud platforms, at platform as a service. So this comes in many flavors, and many people could build platforms together out of many components. So let's have a look at the different flavors. Originally, when we published this back in 2011, the definition of a platform as a service was simply that it is a complete application platform for multi-tenant cloud environments that includes this development, runtime, test, and administration of the applications that you create. But it's more than this. It's not just only a middleware stack that you put in a multi-tenant management environment. It is also what you see here on the left side, what we call the provider portal, and very easy way for software vendors to put apps in existing tenants that people have already, or put add-ons in existing SaaS applications. And we see this being extremely successful with Salesforce.com's App Exchange, with many add-ons into a CRM tenant that you have already. On the other side, subscription should be extremely easy. So an identity management, all those things that enterprises do have, and the onboarding, offboarding of people, also the payment, the consumption-based billing, all that needs to be managed in a subscriber portal. And if you have many applications on one cloud platform, you need to have this all unified. You don't want to reinvent the wheel and as a developer and create another provider portal functionality or subscriber portal functionality. You just want to plug into a multi-tenant concept, into provisioned capabilities, and into user management that is already existing. So beyond that promise of a comprehensive technology stack, there's another important promise, which is simplicity. Things need to be much simpler. And you see that simple enough products do have success. We all know the success from these two interesting examples. I also bring up the the old example, and you see the amazing similarity between the first Brown transistor radio, which was designed by Dieter Rams, a German industry designer who was working for Brown for many decades. And now you realize what was Apple's blueprint for the design of many of their devices. So cloud platforms basically need to be simple. And what you see here on this slide is a screenshot from the Cordys process factory, which basically goes to the extreme of simplifying apps but still keeping them on a solid enterprise platform. So this is for those users that are tech savvy, those users that might come from the business side directly, could be users with, technical interests that just want to create apps for departmental usage or for whatever tasks they have. So think of those people that used to be sophisticated with Excel and Microsoft Access. So there are a lot of people like that becoming more and more sophisticated, and also the tools getting more and more simplified. On the other side, there is this kind of real heavy enterprise application development where you have very sophisticated, skilled application developer who likes coding. And those two worlds never came together. With Cordys actually having both the Cordys Process Factory and the Cordys Business Operations Platform, both worlds come together, share the same metadata, and deliver a governed model. So this is a good example of simplicity. But still, there's a wide variety of tools. And if you give a 2-year-old or so a hammer, suddenly every problem looks like a nail. But in reality, we know that we have many different problems and we need many different tools. So not every problem is a nail. So check out the following list of capabilities and match it against your problem. And then you know which platform as a service you can buy. So I split it platform as a service in 6 different capabilities. This slide and the following slide. And basically we have on this slide the most common ones, which is foundational PaaS. A foundational platform as a service is simply a platform as a service that doesn't, frankly, not a lot, but what it does, providing a application runtime container, it does extremely well. So, for example, if you are still code heavy, if you're a code-centric developer, and you want to create with a modern programming language or a traditional programming language an application, and you don't really know if next Monday this application will have 10 users, 10,000 users, or 10 million users. So you might think this is unrealistic for enterprises. Well, maybe, but it is very common for Facebook applications, for example. And today, in the sense of systems of engagement, as I told you, suddenly a Facebook application doing a promotion for a retailer, for example, is already an enterprise application, right? Because it's weaved into, for example, the profile of customers. It's weaved into lead generation. It's weaved into an enterprise social approach, and so forth. So this is foundational platform as a service, very focused on the scalability, on some few unique differentiators. This is in contrast to the other extreme, to what I call application-centric platform as a service. Application-centric is mainly happening around large software as a service applications. So on Cordys you have, for example, solutions like Human Wave and HR system. So if you want to extend that, you can use the Cordys platform as a platform as a service, and it's the same platform as a service where the application is built on. So this is similar to what we see with Force.com on the Salesforce side, being the platform underneath of the CRM from Salesforce. Now this is a very important point. Unfortunately, most of the large application vendors, especially Microsoft, haven't managed to turn their offering, their platform as a service offering, into an application-centric environment. Because if you look at Azure, for example, it's not at all integrated into Dynamics Online. You have no benefit creating a Dynamics Online add-on on Azure. You can also create it elsewhere. So that means not every platform as a service obviously has application-centric benefits. So the next one is Process PaaS. Process PaaS, obviously, it is the home for a real business application, but around business processes. And obviously, you need to have a strong business process engine. But just putting an BPM engine in the cloud is not in Process PaaS, because a pure BPM engine does not provide you the ability to create the missing business logic. If you want to do business logic, code it. If you want to put business rules in and so on, you need to have a complete stack of platform as a service to be called Process PaaS. This is very important. And then finally, the other three. Integration PaaS, the same thing, an ESB in the cloud and enterprise service bus alone. It's just an enterprise service bus hosted, right? But if you complement an enterprise service bus with capabilities to create the missing business logic between the integration pieces, create maybe a composite application, a mashup application, then you have an integration PaaS. And then there are two other more exotic versions of legacy and content that I don't want to get into here. So here you see, for example, the capabilities of the major products. And again, this is capability segments. So I asked those product vendors, what do you focus on? There's no ranking also of the capabilities. Right, so for example, a offering like OpenShift or CloudBees, they focus fully on the foundational platform as a service. So this is 100% focus on this capability only, and there's no comparison of who is more sophisticated or less. So just focus of the product. And when we did this, the Cordys Process Factory was already fully in the cloud, and today I think Matt can also explain more from the Cordys side here. Also, the business operations platform is fully in the cloud, so they have already 2 products fully in the cloud and architecture for the cloud. So what the Cordys environment does really, if you look at this colored map here, if you will, it has a pretty good mixture between the different capabilities, between foundational, process, integrational, and some application PaaS. So that's a good balance, and that's a good set of capabilities, in my opinion, to be ready for many, many applications. So this at least helps you to make your choice. And frankly, in most enterprises that I looked at in the last 6 months and inquiries I got from Forrester clients, it is more like that you have maybe not a single platform as a service only. Maybe you pick one of those pure foundational ones to create your social app or your forecasting apps or your compute-centric apps. Maybe you do something like Heroku, OpenShift, CloudBees, or a Google App Engine, which is also in the foundational PaaS mainly. And then you realize, oh God, it's pretty complex to create a full-blown complex business app. So for that purpose, you pick the second one, which has a good mixture of multiple capabilities, like the Cordys example, now the 2 Cordys examples. So I'd like to close up with a kind of quick vision on what's going on, what is the next big hype around business applications, especially in the cloud. And it turned out that collaboration is the most disruptive force for unstructured data and structured data, and it will become very disruptive for business applications as well. So most of you know from own experience how Google Applications works. So I'm putting that slide up not to do advertisement for Google, not at all, but I put that up to show you how significant different that is. So if you take, for example, just Gmail, if you write an email, you get a new screen or a new frame, and you're writing something. And you don't put it into folders. It's just labeled as draft. If you send it, the draft label is removed, and it gets to a sent mail label. But if the recipient of that email is also on Google, what's the corporate email, like many companies these days, guess what? The email is not sent at all. It's not even sent anymore. It's just getting an additional label in the recipient's inbox to be seen there. So that is a massive deduplication, right? So, and now realize that companies like Cordys, for example, have not only learned a lot from those extremely collaborative architectures, but also embraced many of that, also implemented, interestingly, very many of the Google APIs. So I give you an example how you could create such a visionary sharing application with platform as a service. So think of quickly a traditional trading chain, right, and supply chain. There's a manufacturer on the upper right, and trader, and then a retail company in another geography. So you're exchanging goods, data, and money. So that's the usual one. But traditionally, all those companies have different ERP systems and send invoices to the other company. You have accounts receivable and accounts payable, AR and AP. So traditional B2B integration transports that data from one system to the other, maps it, and imports it. Hey, wait a second. This just creates another duplicate of the same information again and again. That's actually the opposite what I just showed you as in the Google examples, right? So even if you would imagine that all those guys would be on a very large, very successful software as a service application. So think of that, you know, for example, Cordys or SAP would be as successful with business applications in the cloud like Salesforce is already with CRM in the cloud, where already many millions are on the same platform. Still, those platforms are multi-tenant platforms, but they isolate one tenant from the other. So even if you have multiple tenants on one platform, you end up copying data from one to the other. It's already on the same platform, but it's not in the same tenant. So you're copying over data to bring it from one isolated tenant to the other. So that's the current state-of-the-art of multi-tenancy. But in the future, with very flexible platforms that understand modern development and modern collaboration, you end up with maybe a totally different picture, where you say we have trust relations, and those trust relations actually share data immediately. Think of that Google email or that Google document. That is the shared document. So think of these two guys, for example, the manufacturer and the trader. They say some data, like every shipment within a given contract, I assume, because I know you for a very long time, I trust you, I assume you are not injecting a fraud. So then I just trust you that a packaging slip is turned into an invoice, is turned into a payment on my end automatically. And I just check every 100th or whatever. I just check randomly. And if you are a good supplier, you will make sure that you are not making any mistakes for sure to damage this good customer relation that you have. So this is the massive disruption to how businesses work together, what we call business networks. And it would push the business collaboration from the traditional IT and B2B integration to what we call business technology, BT. So I don't mix it up with British Telecom. BT stands on this slide for business technology. So that's a kind of visionary thing, and this is kind of the apps that you could create on a modern cloud platform as a service, which are totally different by nature, by architecture, from very, very traditional middleware, very traditional platforms. And I just wanted to share this outlook with you to kind of encourage you to think of platform as a service not only as a replacement to an old middleware that is operated cheaper. No, it is something fundamentally new if it's done well, fundamentally new that brings collaboration not only to the development process of business processes and applications, but also to the way businesses can work together. And that's really one of the key motivations why you should look at it. And here are some more details for the more technical people. You can look at how developer duties are in those different levels of a platform. I'd like to skip this because I like to keep more time for question and answers at the end of here. And that's actually my part. And thanks for the attention. Thanks for listening in.
Thank you, Stefan. That was great, and especially the last bit. It was very interesting as to how platform as a service fundamentally differs. As you said, rather than just having middleware run more cheaply in the cloud. We've had some questions throughout, and we've answered a couple hopefully through chat. But there were a number that we wanted to ask you. The first question was, how is this middleware or platform as a service going to help and be used for enterprise mobility? And that was the first question.
Yeah, that's a very important one. Mobile systems are by nature, in most cases, systems that are addressing the systems of engagement of a company. And the systems of engagement are really a more important one. So, for example, making product lifecycle management, product planning, that's something that you keep on the in-house side in most cases, but making customer feedback and collaborative planning, collaborative product innovation, that's something that you need on the mobile devices. So, and you have many obstacles to overcome to create a mobile application in traditional enterprises, right? Getting platforms with the modern technology, opening them up to access from mobile networks, which is obviously outside your firewall, and so on. So by nature, having a platform as a service, it's much, much easier to create a mobile app and then have only one well-defined pipe of API calls or service calls from that cloud PaaS into your enterprise to be consistent, rather than having many, many mobile devices suddenly calling uncontrolled, for example, existing on-premise middleware. You don't know what happens, you don't know about the performance, you don't know about the security and all those issues. So in many cases for mobile devices, platform as a service is holding a new app logic, plus is offering that gateway functionality of controlled access.
Thanks, Stefan. The next question was, why did it take kind of long for the market to adopt, the vision of this new form of multi-tenancy? And in 2003, the question is, we kind of already had this we had this type of software as a service company, and how long did it take? Why did it take so long to adopt this implementation of the multi-tenancy vision?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, each multi-tenancy paradigm, I think, takes about 10 years to be really becoming mainstream, right? So when the basis, or I'm always saying the poor man's multi-tenancy is just virtualization. Right? This is around since decades in fact. And then the metadata-driven multi-tenancy with large SaaS systems like Salesforce.com, for example, and also Google applications, for example, those multi-tenancy approaches have now fully matured and now even get credibility in conservative countries like Europe. And now the first collaborative tendencies where you have those trust relations and can share parts, not everything, but parts of your app with another tenant on the same platform. This is just coming up. There are the first few systems that have this in software as a service offerings, and there are many apps that are experimenting with that on platform as a service. And you know, it will take another 10 years for that to become full mainstream. And Google helps us a little bit with the document collaboration, but documents is still easier than enterprise transactions. So it will take some kind of 2 to 3 years for the first vendors to really, and the first enterprises and CIOs to really embrace that. But again, make your platform choices today based on the capabilities that you need in 5 years.
Thanks, Stefan. The next one is, you know, cloud security has always been, you know, a primary concern. So how are we addressing this, or how's the market addressing this in platform as a service?
Yeah, so cloud security obviously is important, and is I don't want to argue on that. But also I think of really checking the security, and don't say no immediately without checking. I give you 2 examples. The first one looks at how much is going. So for example, we have survey data that shows that financial industry is doing a lot of infrastructure as a service and platform as a service as well, like any other industry. So I talked to a Switzerland bank, for example, asking them, is my survey wrong, or are you actually really doing public cloud? And they said, well, we are not allowed to take any customer data outside our firewall, not even outside the building at all. But very compute heavy stuff is, for example, the forecasting of the stock price. So if we plan an IPO, or if we plan, if you just want to make a major sale or on the public exchange the following Monday, we do massive simulations of what could happen, what will the price reaction be, and so on. And actually, you can remove all customer data for that. So that's an interesting workload, because it is suddenly not compliant relevant at all. So that's my first point. Check those scenarios out. Really look for those pieces where you do not have compliance but still burn performance and struggle with the pre-integration of components. And the second one is then look for a platform as a service vendor that understands the issue of data residency. So a good platform as a service vendor can tell you exactly where the data is. They tell you it's in the European Union, or they tell you it might be elsewhere, but it's cheaper. Okay, so if you have those 2 options, pick the right option by workload. Say this is, for example, simulation data with anonymous data, and simulation app. Okay, pick the cheapest one. One's elsewhere, I don't care. But if you have something where real customer data is, and you are in Europe, pick a European hosting, and then you're on the safe side in most cases. So flexibility here, a cloud vendor that understands your requirements is extremely important.
Thanks, Stefan. And I think we've got one last question because I know we're already running out of time. And the question was really, it might be for you or it might be for me, which is, when we have different interfaces, be it mobiles or PCs, that and those in these platforms, how does platform as a service help in the end-to-end solution of customers wanting different features and a different experience according to their own demands? As we have this diversity of devices and different technology channels, how does platform as a service help in that ability to customize the experience based on who the person is and what they need?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so first of all, developing applications on a platform as a service is a lot more efficient. Productivity goes massively up. So if a developer wants to create these customization and user experience capabilities, the developer is simply 4 to 5 times more efficient doing this. Right? So this is the first thing. The second thing is that many people help you. So most platform as a service today come with app stores, not selling final apps, but also selling components, add-ons. What you used to have with libraries in the old development paradigm to provide you with nice user experience features, with prepackaged integration scenarios, with prepackaged help to deliver a good experience. So those two factors, the prepackaged community plus the efficiency of developers, drive a lot better experience across mobile devices and traditional user interfaces.
And I think, Stefan, from the Cordys perspective, I think we've seen this idea of the enterprise mashups, people being able to self-select what they would like, the idea of having a profile, and now what we didn't get into is how we're using HTML5 in the Cordys platform to allow you to render these kinds of things very dynamically on a number of different devices, and the right blend of kind of native application on the device combined with HTML5 to give you a very dynamic rendering or user interface experience as well. So it doesn't seem like there's one magic answer, but there's a number of things that help you have that almost mass customization of the experience as people bring their own device increasingly.
Yep, I agree.
Well, we've got a couple of questions we haven't had time to get to, but we'll get back to those people straight after this. I'm sorry we've run out of time. There's been some great questions, so I promise we'll get back to everyone. If there are any other questions, then feel free to email me. It's just mdavis@cordys.com, MDAVIDS. And thank you very much for coming. If you want to find out a bit more, then visit Cordys.com, and we've also launched fairly recently a new site called Cordys Content on Demand, and you'll be able to see more information about platform as a service, customers who are using it, ISVs, service providers, and there's a great source of information there. And hopefully we'll be creating another one of those pages very soon based on today's webinar. The slides will be available, and the recording of this will be available as well. Keep your eye out for the next one, and thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Stefan, as well.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, everybody.